All right. It is recording now, I believe.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Nathaniel Sawyer. I'm an activist on the Monterey Peninsula. A lot of you know me. I am honored and privileged to be here with Chief Cathy Madalone. Am I saying your last name right? Help me if I'm not.
Madalone, yes, and it is my honor and privilege too. Thank you.
You know, obviously, a lot of people know why we're discussing right now. We're not going to get into the details of that individual. You know, that's a different piece, but we are going to get into the policies of your police department. We're going to talk about what you have done in the past and the present and what you want to do in the future. We're going to start with, I want to know, like, tell me about your police department, you know, for the people that even live in Pacific Grove that don't know about your police department.
Sure. So our police department is comprised of a very diverse group of women and men. We currently have 17 sworn members and 12 professional staff. And overall, we are much more diverse in our community. Our community is 82% white, and we have 69% white in our department. Our community is 2% Black. We have 3% Black officers, 10% Hispanic in the community, 21% Hispanic in our police department. Our community is comprised of 6% Asian, and we are 7% in our police department. Between men and women, we are 52% female and 48% male. That's including both our sworn and non-sworn staff. And as far as education, 76% of our members have at least an associate's degree. 11 members have a bachelor's degree, and 2 of us have a master's degree. Okay. And in addition to that, many of our employees are currently working on getting additional educational.
So you value higher education in your police department? Okay, awesome, yes. Excellent, excellent.
Our police department also participates in the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the One Mind Pledge, which seeks to ensure successful interactions between law enforcement and people in crisis or that have mental health issues or disorders. And the initiative is focused on uniting local communities, public safety organizations, and mental health organizations so that the 3 become one mind. Members of the police department are also trained in all aspects of law enforcement. We are in full compliance with the California requirements, and training provides our members with professional growth, continued education development, and we train our officers to maintain compliance in local, state, federal, and city mandates so that we can ensure our personnel possess the knowledge and skills necessary to provide a professional level of service that meets the needs of our community.
Okay,
we also strive to be as transparent and open as possible. We are very active on our social media platforms, and we love interacting with our community members. Our policies are also forward-facing on our department website, so you can go on there and look at them anytime you want. On the sworn side of our police department, we have 2 different divisions, operations and investigations. And on the professional side, we have our police service technicians who work on the front counter, our parking enforcement officer, our property and evidence manager, and we recently created a community service officer classification. So that covers our animal control, some parking, and it allows our non-sworn members to respond to calls for service that doesn't require a police officer, like a minor traffic collision. They can go and handle that kind of investigation, a noise complaint, or ordinance violations. So we can free up the officers to handle the more emergent police matters, and then we can have those officers interact with our community members when a police officer is not needed. Our officers are equipped with less lethal options, such as like tasers and ASP and OC, and all of our members that work out in the public are equipped and utilize and wear a body-worn camera on all interactions with members of the public. I'm very proud to say that we are the first law enforcement agency in a 3-county area, that's Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz, to become CALIA accredited. Accreditation, it's not easy to attain. It's very difficult, and that's why a lot of agencies don't do it. It's a voluntary program where we invite a third-party expert into our agency to review our policies and procedures. They inspect our facility and our processes. So we In this past November, we underwent our first accreditation onsite, and we passed with flying colors. The process doesn't end there, though. It's an ongoing process. So every year moving forward, we are under review annually. Our policies are reviewed annually, and every 4 years moving forward, we have to conduct on-site inspections again. And during those on-sites, that gives the opportunity, the public an opportunity to participate. We have different ways in which they can do that. They can send an email to the assessors or to Kalia. They can participate in a phone-in session, or they can participate in a meeting that we hold for the public. I've been involved with police accreditation since 2005. So I know that it takes a lot of work to get it done. And with our limited resources that we have in the police department, we're very small. And considering that we're under furloughs and during COVID, our budget has been reduced, that is such a huge accomplishment. And I'm really proud of my team and my staff. And it definitely was a team effort, and it is a department-wide philosophy.
Hey, Chief.
That's a little bit about our police department.
Chief, I appreciate you giving all that information. When I'm hearing that, I'm hearing a lot of talk about policy over and over again. But I want to get to, how do you feel as a police chief during this time? I mean, really, honestly, I mean, I don't think it'll hurt your department because you are the leader of the department, but also, obviously, yes, you have to, in a way, you have a boss, but at the same time, I want to know how you feel, like really, like I'm sure there's both sides to this, like.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Great question, Nate. So I've dedicated half my life to law enforcement, and to me, it's not just a job, it's a passion, and it's part of who I am. I believe now more than ever, we need strong leaders in law enforcement. Being a chief today has certainly been challenging, considering budget constraints, national civil unrest, probably the most divisive election in our history, and the constraints this global pandemic has put on our ability to interact with our community. When COVID hit, we didn't have a playbook. We needed to work together, be adaptable, and devise plans to keep not only our community safe, but our officers safe as well. In PG, like I just said, we're a really small department. And if one person got COVID, it could be devastating to our entire department. And it could affect our ability to provide community safety to our community. It has been a very difficult year for everyone. I have felt the effects of it, as well as others here. I'm sure everyone has.
Have you felt the effects of the Black Lives Matter movement in regards to how you had to think about your agency in a different light? Have you had to look into your policies and think, man, okay, maybe I can tweak these or see if I can talk to someone about making this a little stronger when in regards to racism? I'm not saying anything about your employees in general, but how do you protect that there would be no officers coming in that you may not know something about their history or their psychological evaluation? Because as we know, when you do psychological evaluations, they sometimes don't always get everything, they don't tell you everything about a person. Sometimes they can be false at times. So
sure. Yeah. So we have a very robust hiring process, a background process. I think that's one of the questions you're going to ask me a little bit later.
Yeah.
If you want, I can talk to you at that time, or I can just finish my sentiment here.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, and if you have anything to still tell me on how do you feel as a police chief during the Black Lives Matter movement, that I'd
just like to add just a little bit more, is that we are all human, and we have feelings and emotions, and we're all struggling just like everybody else. However, despite the challenges, I love being a chief, and I love to have the opportunity to offer what I can provide to my community and my department. I'm very proud to serve with honor and distinction, and I don't take my position lightly. I really feel that I'm a public servant here in PG. And as one of the leaders in the city, I have an opportunity to create a dialogue between the police and the community and strengthen the relationships between us and our residents.
Okay.
I'm committed to guiding the younger police officers, the younger generation of officers, and teaching them the importance of community and being collaborative in policing. I have a passion for serving, and I consider myself lucky to be in this position where I can make a positive impact here. I really do. I mean, I can't stress enough how much I love this profession, and I love working for this city and this department.
Well, you kind of already hit on my next question, which was tell us about your love for the community of Pacific Grove.
Sure. I'll start off with the department. The members here are such a great group. They are caring and compassionate. They go above and beyond daily. I love working for a city that is so inclusive. I am a member of a marginalized community, and I've been welcomed here with open arms. We have amazing partners in our community, like in our Chamber of Commerce with Mo Mar and his members, Dr. Porras and Barbara Martinez from the Pacific Grove Unified School District, business owners, community members. We have so many community members that volunteer and sit on boards and commissions, and those that actively engage in conversations and participate at council meetings. Our city staff and our mayor and council members, they truly care about this community. I've met so many wonderful members over the past year and a half that I've been here, and I appreciate all of them. We have such an amazing group of volunteers. In our police department, we have a Citizens Police Academy, and those that went through our police academy go on to, if they'd like to stay, they become volunteers. And they're just a great group of women and men also. We have partnered with the religious, all the churches and the religious affiliations here in town. We have many in Pacific Grove. So we're working on creating a chaplain program here. And as an added bonus, Nate, I'm sure you've been to Pacific Grove. It is probably, not only are the people here wonderful that work here, live here, and visit here, but the scenery is fantastic, right?
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
One of the most beautiful and picturesque places in the world. And I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to serve as the chief and privileged to serve this community.
Man, thank you for that. My next question is a little deeper, because I'm going to be jumping in policy again and procedures. Sure. But I really want to know, like, what are, I'll ask the question, then I'll follow up on it. What are your hiring policies and procedures, and will they change after the recent far-right extremist activity during society at large? Okay, now really think about this. I'm sure you have something that you were going to say about this, but there's a lot of law enforcement agencies out here, and I'm talking to after you, that got to talk about this as well, because I've talked to some police officers, and they say they do fear that they may hire the wrong person, or a person that doesn't realize when they put something out there, their community members may be affected by it. So yeah, in your best.
Sure. Yeah. So as I said earlier, our policies are forward-facing on the website. So there's no secret what our hiring practice is. In addition to our policies, we also follow the city policies for guidelines on hiring practices. But I'll give you a quick rundown on how we run a recruitment. So applicants, we put out a recruitment saying we're looking for a police officer. If applicants meet the qualifications, then they, on paper, then they are invited for an interview. And then they're asked a series of questions by panelists and scored. If they do well enough, they proceed and complete a personal history statement, which is a really long document. It's crazy. And then they're put through a very robust and comprehensive background investigation. The investigation consists of applicants' past work history, their past residences, their driving and criminal history, personal history, military, credit history, a social media review, educational history. The investigators go out to their homes, to their neighborhoods. They speak to their neighbors. They talk to family members. They talk to past employers. They talk to their references. And during the initial background process, the applicants are also put through a polygraph. Once that part has been completed, I will meet with the applicants to see if I believe that they are the right fit for our department and for our community, because fit is super important. If the applicants are selected to move forward, they are provided with a conditional offer of employment, which is contingent upon them successfully passing a medical and a psychological exam. And once they've completed all of those steps that I've described above, they're provided with an offer letter. And then they start work here.
Okay.
So whether we take a lateral officer who can come in and start working in our FTO field training program, or they go to the police academy. No matter what, they're on probation for at least a year. So that way we can ensure that they're capable of meeting the expectations that we put upon them, that our community puts upon them, and that they perform their duties in a professional manner.
Was it 6 months probation?
It's at least a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in regards to changing the policies or the processes, as you can see from what I just told you, and if you looked on our policy itself, it's very robust already. But I assure you that changes are made as practices evolve and as required by law.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned FIT, and my next question is, will you be making policy changes that bring more equity to the city of PG? As we all know, everyone's not surprised or know, Pacific Grove is a majority white Caucasian town. But there are minorities there, and your police department does have minority individuals in there. But when I say fit, or say me, for example, I'm not interested, but if I were to hire,
we are hiring, Nate.
If I were to apply to Pacific Grove, move in Pacific Grove and things like that, would I have to assimilate to like what I feel like? As you know, I do believe I'm an activist. I push for equity, and I'm, everything MLK and has pushed out, I try to do as well in the new generation. Mm-hmm. Would that be welcomed in your police department if someone in the future was looking to work there and they were Black or brown?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said earlier, our police department is super diverse. Everybody here is welcome. Me being a gay woman, it wasn't even there was not even a question about it coming in, to this police department. We have African Americans, we have Hispanics, we have Asians, we have, people from the LGBTQ community. So yeah, everybody here is definitely welcomed.
Have you talked to your minorities in your police department about what's going on, how they feel about the situation, or is that something that you like, Nate, that sounds good, maybe I'll implement that and just see how they're doing, and maybe they can talk to the community about their experiences in the police department?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And for many of the protests that we've had in town, we've had, just because they've been on duty or they agreed to work overtime, is our diverse group of members here that have interacted with members in the community and members that came out to protest. But yeah, I'm a chief that is a collaborator outside with the community as well as inside with my staff. So I don't just throw policies down their throats and say, hey, you have to follow this. I talk to them, I talk to our union, I talk to all of the groups to make sure that the policies are understood, that they understand why they need to be made. If it's a specific law that was changed, it has to be followed. And I get their input, because if they have input, then they have buy-in, and they will follow those policies willingly.
No, and that's proof right now. I mean, you're talking to me, and you heard about me wanting to do a Black Lives Matter march. A whole bunch of people were interested in going, and then you weren't trying to stop me in any means, but you were just seeing if you could help. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this opportunity to actually talk to you. I'm a policy specialist by heart, my master's, and I'm going to be going to my PhD in psychology or PsyD. And so I am one of those people, I like talking to people and seeing how they work, so I can actually know the person. I don't believe in protesting without a cause, and I have to have a cause. And if I believe the person or the individuals in leadership are doing something to change things, then I don't feel it necessarily to waste my time doing that, something that could potentially put people in jeopardy or in harm's way, because we know there are people out there that are dangerous. And so to lead off of that though, my next question is, would you consider making programs for children to learn from your department? As you know, we've talked over the phone. I'm a former Shelby County Sheriff's Office Explorer in Alabama. That's where I'm born and raised back in the day. And I loved the experience of being trained by law enforcement officers. And interestingly, I had a lot of family members in prison and things like that. So I didn't come from the stereotypical home that would put me in a place like that. But these officers who we may disagree a little bit now as I'm older and do things that they may not agree with, but but when I was a child, I learned a lot. Let's just say that I was trained by the FBI, DEA, CIA, local, but it started with the local police department. They created Explore programs where each Thursday at 6 p.m. we would come to the office, learn how to do traffic stops, domestic violence scenarios, bomb negotiations, and it was amazing. It was imagination for me. I didn't know how real it was, you know, when you're 14 years old and growing up, and they were almost like a second family to me. It was my escape. I played football, did all those things, but I enjoyed going to that Shelby County Sheriff's Office law enforcement office and learning something new, or just practicing the same old, same old. And then over the summer, we had a police academy. It was only a week. It was for kids, and it was a little rough at first. All the people that were usually teddy bears to us were a little tougher in the first days, but it was amazing. I learned leadership through that. And I will never, ever, I feel like that experience helped me on my resume, helped me go to college, because I had to have a certain GPA to be in the program. It was a majority white sheriff's department, so they were reaching out to Black and brown people in their city, you know, talking to parents at schools through the DARE. I don't know if they still have DARE here, but
Yes.
the DARE program, and they were like, hey, I know that you've had a rough time, but I would love to take your kid on the sheriff's department. We just, you know, he can just do a ride along, and if he likes it. And, you know, they have their trainings that they do. And I would love to see Pacific Grove and other agencies do the same thing. You have so many kids that they may not become cops, but they may be firefighters or doctors, and that experience will have changed their perception of law enforcement, and law enforcement itself will change the narrative in their community. You can't change the world, but you can start with your community.
Yeah, totally agree. So your question is, would I consider making those programs?
Yes.
And my answer is absolutely. It's definitely on the horizon. We had planned to host 2 different types of youth police academies. One was going to be a program held during the school year and conducted on a specific day of the week for 8 weeks in length. And the second is a week-long program that is very similar to a regular police academy, like a boot camp. But unfortunately, due to COVID, those were put on hold. So we were anticipated to do that last year, starting in October, but we had to put that on hold.
Got you.
I know the importance of engaging our youth. I served as a school resource officer, and I volunteered as a coach for a group of girls from the 5th grade until they graduated high school in basketball and softball. So I know firsthand that the benefits of creating those bonds and building the relationships with our youth. And those relationships to me are lifelong. I know I've made a difference in their lives, and they absolutely have made a difference in mine.
Okay.
I've also developed and managed and ran a youth police academy in my past job.
No.
It was and it is a huge success. And working on that program and with those kids was one of the most rewarding experiences in my entire career. I have to tell you that the program that I developed there was just the week-long police academy, and wow, I wish they had that when I was a kid. You know, those experiences. I mean, we have helicopters come in, we have overnights in the state police barracks. You know, they see the dogs, they see the medical examiner, they go to the jail. Like it's incredible the things that we can do with these kids.
Yeah.
And to see them on the first day when they come into the program with like fear in their face and like, oh gosh, what did I get myself into? And then that fear changes into smiles and they blossom, and you see their personalities just grow over that week. And it sounds like it's crazy, but in that week, you really create that bond with these kids, and you see their self-esteem just rise. It's amazing. And I am super excited for us here to develop a program just like that when the COVID protocols are lifted.
Oh
So,
yeah,
yes,
I can't wait to. I can't wait to hear more about it as it goes on. I've talked to Mayor Ian Oglesby in Seaside, and he wants that same thing, and a lot of other different agencies in Salinas and things like that. And I'm telling you, if PG brings this forth, I mean, that's your next officers as well. You know, you don't have to hire outside if you have homegrown, you know, officers who know your agency from the inside and out. And they became your kids almost, where, you know, and so it's really interesting. I'm sure it'll catch on eventually on the Monterey Peninsula as a whole. My last thing is, do you have any final words for community members who may be worried about racism in your police department?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll tell you, Nate, we're human. You know, we make mistakes and we're not perfect. We learn though from them, and we constantly strive to improve. And I know it saddens me because I know that to some people this is just lip service, and I take this profession and my job very seriously. And it's not just a job to me, it's a passion, it's a calling, and it's my career. It's what I've dedicated half of my life to. And I do my best to make myself available to the public, whether in person, virtually, like I am today with you, or on the phone. And as the chief, I'm astutely aware that the organizational culture in this department lies on my shoulders, and that I'm accountable for ensuring that every member of the public, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, or any other factor, is treated fairly. And that starts with our hiring processes and our training, along with continuous oversight and review. Our staff is required to take numerous types of training, courses such as implicit bias, racial profiling, LGBT awareness, mental health, de-escalation, use of force, and so many more. We take all complaints that we receive seriously, and misconduct and mistreatment is not tolerated here. We have mechanisms in place, policies, procedures, body-worn cameras, training, and oversight to ensure we are holding ourselves accountable, and we expect our community to hold us accountable as well. So with that, Nate, I really appreciate you sitting down with me today and giving me the opportunity to get to know you better. I know we talked on the phone a few times, and I really appreciate what you do in the community and the work that you're doing. And for me, I think that this is how it starts: to sit across from the table, whether it's a virtual table or not, to be open, to open up lines of communication. We all need to work together to make change. And it takes building these relationships, and most importantly, trust, for us to move forward as a community, as a profession, and as a nation.
Thank you, Chief. I want to say that I am honored to be speaking to you right now. I know that we sit on different sides at times, but I believe that we want the same goal at the end of the day. We want peace in our communities. We love our communities. You're in PG. You know, I consider myself a Monterey County resident. I don't just consider myself a Marina, California resident, because I've gotten to know the senators, the congressmen, the people that make change in our county, and I've been an individual that I try to speak on things that I believe affect not just the African American community, but all communities. And I hold you to the highest regard as I hold a military personnel, because you are our first line of defense. This COVID-19, you're out there, you're serving, you're speaking to me when you got other things to do. And so I want to tell you, this is going to be shared with who knows how many people and folks, that I truly am thankful for your service. And I know that you are going to do the right things when in the future, like you've been doing. You did what you need to do in that incident. I'm not going to bring it up because they're legal issues, and I'm going to be respectful of that. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for having a conversation with me today.